It doesn't sound good. Have you watched Harry Potter? Do you remember the scene where they go to the bank? And, like all the banksters, they're like ugly, short goblins, and like they're always muddy. I mean, I don't know. Maybe J.K. Rowling had some bad experience with banksters as well. I don't know.
Well, we have some time. Let's talk about your history being Germany and the Rothschilds.
Oh.
Rothschilds in German means red shield, if I'm right. That's what I've read.
Hmm.
So they had a red shield out in front of their business and they were goldsmiths. So you would bring your gold to them and they say, yeah, it's worth this. And they write out a receipt for you because it's a lot easier handing a piece of paper to somebody than having this gold that's not stamped and not put in a coin. So how do you know what it is? So Rothschild said that this is worth this much money. So you take and you maybe buy a house or something like that, or you buy a boat and then you go off. Well, what happens to that receipt when the boat sinks? Well, the Rothschild has your gold. So if you want to become wealthy, what you do is you go the route of the goldsmith because that's where all the gold is. That's where the money is. So you keep accumulating more and more money. So what happened is that the Rothschilds loaned money to France, who wanted to fight England. And then he went to England since they were going to go to war with France. They needed money, and he loaned them money to fight France. Both had to have an agreement that if they won, they had to pay the other side's losses. So if England won, they would have to pay France's debt. So he had them making money on both sides.
Oh my
At the
god.
battle, yeah. So at the Battle of Waterloo, we now know that England won. So what happened is Rothschild had his spies there. They went through all the barricades, all the borders very quickly, got to London, and told Rothschild that England won. So the next morning, he shows up to the stock market and he starts selling British bonds. And they're watching him selling, selling. He's selling all of his bonds at any price. He doesn't care what the price is. And so the other traders see him and they go, oh my gosh, France must have won the Battle of Waterloo. He knows, he's got inside information. So I'm going to do what he does. So they all started selling their British bonds and it got down to the very bottom. And then that's when Rothschilds bought it all up cheap. And at the same time, he was selling his French bonds to all the suckers who thought France won and that's going to come valuable and that price went way up. So he made money selling on bonds that were basically worthless. So since then, every war has been a banker's war. And even in the American Civil War, President Lincoln went to Rothschilds and they said 34%. He went 30. I'm not going to do a 34% interest rate. I'm just going to make my own currency. So that's where the North had created their own dollars without an interest. But then in 1913, we passed a law illegally, some people say, and I agree, that we authorized the founding of the Federal Reserve, which has nothing to do with the federal government. Like Federal Express has nothing to do with the federal government. They use the same word to trick people into thinking that way. It's a private corporation organized in Puerto Rico. And there's lots of information about how these banksters got together and criminally had their plan to be a national bank. And so they were the ones who were causing inflation. And we can kind of get into that a little bit later on, but just a little background of history that the Rothschilds are the bankers of the world. And why America goes to war with these different countries is they're not part of the Rothschild central banking system. So that's, you'll see all the wars since then has always been a banker's war.
Oh my god, what a sneaky dude. Man. Ah. And that's another thing that puzzles me. Like, they can just print more money. You just said he created his own bank. Like, all of a sudden, there's no limit to his wealth. If I'm not mistaken, the guy who invented Bitcoin is the same thing. He's like, he has so much money because he's the creator of the thing. He can, I don't know exactly the rules, but I heard that he's the richest of them all. He can live comfortably for many generations because he created the thing. That doesn't sound fair, you know? Like, I don't know. There's something sketchy about it.
Well, a little bit of the history is that years ago, when I was in high school, I read a book about the rich and the super rich. And
Mm,
it talked about how the Rothschilds are by far away the most wealthiest people. So all these people you're going about like Bill Gates and Elon Musk and all these
mm.
and the Bitcoin guy, you're saying these are rich people. They are so poor compared to the Rothschilds. They are in extreme. So now you try to do some research on them, and it's all blank. I mean, this they have the internet washed. You can't. No one talks about them. Sometimes they're in the news and stuff like that, but they're not talked about how they are the wealthy. They're basically the slave owners. We are enslaved to them through either debt or through trying to be a wage slave.
That's a pretty negative view of the world, but doesn't doesn't make it less realistic. I was debating with a friend of mine the other day that modern society is just slavery with additional steps. I mean, why do we go to work every day? You know, like it's just to get money so you can get housing and food. That's basically it. And then we start, and then he debated, no, that's not true, because if you put effort you can achieve more, and you can grow, and you have the dream, you can one day buy the Ferrari and buy the the boat. Yeah, sure, there's escape route, but the way to quote unquote escape it is not known to everyone. It's tricky, like.
Yeah, and one thing when you're saying that, I thought of Pope John Paul II. He was asked, "What's the biggest problem you see of young people?" And he only said one word: consumerism.
uh,
And that's what happened to me about 13 years ago. We men make the money, the wives spend it. And it was never enough. I could never make enough money for her. So 13 years ago, she said, "Get out and take the dog with you." And so I became homeless on purpose. And I also had a vow of poverty that I had for about 10 years. So I traveled the United States not having a home or to have any basically money. And I relied on people, not in a sense of charity. I didn't take that. It was always an exchange. I did something for them and they exchanged. Like there's a thing called couch surfing. I never heard of it until somebody said, "Do you ever heard of couch surfing?" But there's a website that people let you sleep on their couch. And so I did cash on one place. Then he told me about wolfing, and I said, "I've never heard of wolfing." It's WWOOF, Worldwide Opportunity Organic Farming. So there's